everybody. My name is Sierra. I'm one of the community health dietitians with Tribal Health. And today I'm going to be doing a demonstration for Go Red for heart health, for women's heart health. That is the event that's going on in February. And so a heart healthy meal that I'm going to show you guys how to cook today is salmon. So we're going to pan fry some salmon, and then we're also going to do a Three Sisters squash, bean, and corn salad with a vinaigrette. So to start off, we're going to start with the salmon. I have a skillet here. I put some olive oil in there. Olive oil is one of our really heart healthy fats that we can cook with. It has a lot of omega-3 fatty acids. And so those fatty acids, that type of fat, is a healthy fat. And it helps prevent heart disease, it reduces inflammation, and it can also help us stay full. So fat is a great thing to eat because it helps us stay full after we eat. And so for our salmon here, I have 2 pieces of salmon. You might get salmon with your commodities food package. They'll be frozen. And so I can post some information about how you can thaw meat and fish. But to cook salmon, you're going to want to make sure that it's thawed if you do get frozen salmon fillets. So I have 2 fillets here. And for our rub, I'm going to put just a little bit of brown sugar. So we're adding sugar, which is okay because it's going to make our food taste good. But we just don't want to add a whole lot, right? Because we don't need a whole lot of added sugar. I have some salt here, so I'm just going to put in just a little bit of salt in there. And salt is interesting too because most people think, oh, heart healthy, you don't want to eat a whole lot of salt, right? Well, most people get most of the salt or sodium in their diet from eating processed foods. So that can be canned foods, it can just be packaged foods. Salt is added to a lot of, or sodium is added to a lot of things like salad dressing. So it may not even taste salty, but there's probably some sodium in there because food manufacturers add sodium to food to keep it fresh, to preserve it without needing to refrigerate it. So most people, about 70% of the sodium in our diet is coming from those processed foods. Only about 5% or so is coming from salt that we add to our food when we're cooking. So that's why it's better to cook your own food because you get to control how much salt you put in there. So I just put some chili powder in our mixture too. I'm going to put some cumin in there. And then I diced up some blueberries, and I'm going to put some diced blueberries in there. And we're going to mix that up. And we're going to just press it onto the salmon. So blueberries are delicious and they have antioxidants. And antioxidants are these compounds in food that help us stay healthy. They fight cancer, and it can also help prevent heart disease. So eating fruits and vegetables which have antioxidants are really good for our heart health. Okay, so I have all my spices and everything mixed up, and I'm just gonna sort of just smash it right on the top of the salmon here. Gonna press it down in there. Also that brown sugar that we put in there, so yeah, it's gonna make it kind of a little sweet, not too much though. But it's also gonna caramelize. So that's when heat is applied to sugar, like when you're making caramelization, it kind of turns this kind of gooey, brownish, but it tastes delicious. So it's gonna make our salmon taste really good. And I think most people like sugar, you know, it's good. It's okay to have sugar every once in a while. I mean, we're all human. We like delicious food, and, you know, we don't want to just taste food or make food that is healthy and it doesn't taste good. We want it to taste good. Okay. So I mashed all that stuff into just like the top of the salmon. I'm not going to do the bottom because the bottom is the skin. And so I have a pan here with that olive oil I was talking about, and I already have it on low heat, so it should be hot. When I put this in, it should just sizzle right away. That's what we want to hear. Sizzling. Right. Not messy, and because I touched that raw salmon, I'm going to wash my hands before I move on to the other ingredients, because I don't want to, potentially have a food safety issue because I touched the raw salmon. All right. If you ever cook with me, you're gonna know I'm kind of messy, but it's fun to be messy and have fun in the kitchen. Okay, so over here, we're gonna do a berry dressing to go on top of our salmon. So I have some blackberries and blueberries. I have a pot here, a sauce pot. It has a little bit of water in it already. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on, kind of like a little bit above a simmer, medium low. And I'm going to add some honey. So honey is also an added sugar, but I like using honey because it's a little more natural, and I like to support bees, right? We want to support our bees. Our bee populations have been negatively impacted because of our current agriculture practices. And honey does have some antioxidants as well. And there's a few research studies I saw that talked about if you get the raw honey, this like darker honey, it has some like pollen in it, and that can help with allergies. Okay, so I have a little bit of water in there. I put some honey in there, and then I just put the berries in there, and we're just gonna let them cook down on low heat. It'll kind of turn into like a sauce type mixture. Okay, so those are going. Our salmon is going here. And salmon, it doesn't take too long to cook when you pan fry it. You can also bake it, you can smoke it. Those will take different amount of time. But what we're looking for is we want the salmon to be sort of flaky, sort of fall apart, opaque. And generally, the safe internal cooking temperature that we want to cook our fish to is 145 degrees. So some people might like their fish cooked a little less. They want it a little more rare. So I'm just going to turn this up so it's like about a medium-high heat. And that's fine, if you like your fish to be maybe 120, 130 degrees. However, I would say if you have any sort of like health conditions that make you immune compromised, if you're older or if you have like little kids, that you're cooking for, I would just make sure that you cook your salmon to that 145 degrees just so they don't get sick. Alright, so we're going to have that cooking. While that's cooking, I'm going to show you guys how to make the vinaigrette for our Three Sisters salad. So when you're making a vinaigrette, one thing to keep in mind is you want about 3 parts oil to 1 part acid. So vinaigrette usually includes the oil, an acid, and something sweet. So we're going to use honey. For acid, we're using lime juice. So I squeeze some limes or stretch limes, and then we're going to use olive oil again, that heart healthy oil. So I'm just going to mix together, pour some olive oil in here. And if you make a little bit too much vinaigrette, that's okay. Like, we're not going to pour the whole thing on to the salad necessarily. You can save it and use it for a different salad. So, a little bit of acid here. And then about a spoonful of honey. And I'm just gonna whisk it together. If you don't have a whisk, you can just use a fork, whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm gonna taste it. So that's how I like to cook. I kind of fly by the seat of my pants a little bit sometimes. We'll see how this tastes. That's pretty good. I think that's just the right amount of like oily, acidy sweet that I want. All right, let me check on the salmon here. So it's starting to get a little like whitish and a little oozy on the sides. That's a good sign. Now, the thing that I always worry about when I'm cooking is flipping things in hot oil. It always makes me a little nervous, so I might turn this down a bit because I don't want to get sprayed with hot oil. I'm just gonna check crust. Ooh, that was beautiful. So it's starting to get like a little bit black and crusty on the skin. That's how I like my salmon. Again, if you like yours a little more rare, you might do yours differently. But we kind of lift that up to show you guys how that looks, how that beautiful skin looks. And so now, starting to smell those spices, the cumin and the chili powder. It smells delicious. So now the other side is going to cook for a little bit. And salmon, I mean, it's a pretty versatile fish. You can add whatever flavorings you want. I think dill goes pretty well with salmon. A lot of people like lemon, citrus fruit, whatever you prefer. So while that side's cooking, I'm going to start putting together this salad. Move some of these things out of the way. We have our vinaigrette ready. Okay, so the three sisters here. First, we have our corn and beans. So I use pinto beans, but you could pretty much use whatever beans you want. You could do black beans, you could do chickpeas, you could do navy beans, whatever. So we got beans and corn, and these are foods that you can also find in your commodities food package. So I just use canned ones. The thing to keep in mind with beans and corn are when you're getting them canned, you know, they're more affordable that way. But you want to look for the labels that talk about salt or sodium. So this corn, it says no salt added, and the beans say low sodium. So if you're not sure what that means, take a look at the label. So no salt added corn only has 10 milligrams of sodium. That's pretty good. The low sodium beans still have about 140 milligrams of sodium, so quite a bit higher. And I looked at the low sodium corn as well, and it was around 130 milligrams of sodium. So the no salt added is going to be lower in sodium. And we want to watch our sodium or our salt levels, because when we eat a lot of sodium or salt, that increases our blood pressure. So for heart health, we want to watch the sodium. So when you buy canned corn or beans, make sure you rinse them under water. It'll get some of that sodium off. Also, when you're cooking with beans and you soak them and you rinse them, it gets rid of some of the compounds that make us gassy, which is also, you know, a benefit. And so we have our corn and our beans, and then I cooked ahead of time some acorn squash. So the story with the three sisters, it's sort of an agriculture practice in addition to a story. The corn, the beans, and the squash. So the corn is a stalk, it grows on a stalk, and it provides stability and just something for the beans to grow up. So the bean vines will grow up on the corn. And the beans, they are nitrogen fixers, meaning they put nitrogen back into the soil, which is really important for our crops to grow. I'm just going to check this side. It looks good. Getting a little smoky. That's probably because of the spices and the berries that I put on there. So I'm just going to take temperature real quick, and I'll continue with that story. So the beans are the nitrogen fixers, and the squash provide shade and moisture to the ground, and that helps prevent weeds from growing. So when we grow corn, bean, and squash together, it's a really sustainable and effective agricultural practice, and they taste good together, and they're nutritious. So you'll get plenty of protein and carbohydrates, excellent carbohydrates and fiber from this salad. I'll make sure it's at that 145. And I'm sticking the thermometer in the side of the salmon, kind of like the thickest part of it. Make sure it's at the right temperature I want it at. Excellent. Take that off. In here. So just plate that over here for now. And then we'll finish up with this salad. So our corn is technically a whole grain, and it has a lot of good minerals in it, like magnesium and zinc, which help our bodies stay healthy, our blood stay healthy. And being a whole grain, that means it has fiber. Fiber is a really great nutrient to consume because it helps lower our cholesterol, and it also helps make sure our digestive tract is healthy. It can help prevent colon cancer, and it makes us feel full too. So that's also a great benefit of eating plenty of fiber. Though if you're not used to eating a lot of fiber, start slow and make sure you're drinking plenty of water and fluids, because if you eat too much fiber too soon, you can get constipated. So I made some brown rice, but you could also add white rice, wild rice, to add to your salad if you want. I prefer brown rice, so that's what I went with. It's also brown rice and wild rice are excellent sources of fiber. White rice, still, you know, delicious and good, but it has less fiber. So that would be the only drawback. And for any of the diabetics out there, fiber is going to help you control your blood sugar. So versus eating a simple sugar such as soda or candy or even the white rice, that is going to make your blood sugar spike really high and then kind of go back down quickly. Fiber kind of makes your blood sugar just slowly creep up and sort of a more moderate way, which is what we want to see, right? We want to keep our blood sugars under control. So I'm mixing in that rice as well. And then we're gonna add some friends. You know, we added the rice, that's an extra friend for our three sisters. We're gonna add some more friends. So what I have here is some chopped up diced green onion and garlic. I'm gonna go ahead and add that. I have some cilantro and mint, chopped up, diced. We're gonna add that. Some jalapeno. So I'm a fan of spicy food. You don't have to add all these extra things. You can just sort of add whatever vegetables or ingredients you want. And then I also have some diced tomatoes we're gonna add, as well as some avocado. I normally wouldn't go for avocado. It's usually too expensive, but the super one, it was 48 cents each. So like, why not? Why not today? I'm gonna mix all of this together. It's starting to look colorful and beautiful, and I'll show you guys that. And then, because I wanted to be, you know, I wanted to use as much as the squash as I could, try not to waste anything. Like when I cooked the squash, I cut off the ends, cut it in half, and I scooped out the seeds, and I saved the seeds, and I roasted them in the oven at 275 for about 15 minutes. And I'm gonna add the seeds to this salad too, because I think it'll add a nice crunch. And all I did was put some olive oil in the pan, this baking dish, and put some salt on top of the seeds and let them bake, and it turned out really well. And you can do that for a lot of different squash. And so for the squash, I baked that, I cut it in half and then I sliced it up, and I baked it at 400 degrees for probably about like 30 to 40 minutes. And I just cooked it until I stuck a fork in and it came out, and it was like super easy to chop up. So I took it out of the oven, let it cool, chopped it up. And so when you bake squash, you can keep the skin or the peel on there. Some squash you probably aren't going to want to eat the peel. Like I don't usually eat the peel of the butternut squash or like spaghetti squash, just because they're a little too tough. Acorn squash isn't bad. I kind of did half and half, where I cut off some of the peel for the acorn squash and kept others that were softer on. The peel is where a lot of those vitamins and minerals are. and where a lot of the fiber is. So it's nice if you can keep it on, but if you're older and maybe you have some issues chewing, you might want to slice that peel off, or maybe for littler kids too, they might not like the peel. But acorn squash is super delicious, super heart healthy. It has complex carbohydrates, which are going to keep our blood sugar pretty stable. Also, it has 1 cup of cooked acorn squash has about 500 milligrams of potassium. And potassium is one of those minerals or electrolytes that really is heart healthy. So potassium helps our blood sugar stay at healthy levels. However, if you have certain conditions like kidney disease, you might want to talk to a dietitian like myself or a doctor to see how much potassium you should be eating. But generally, most people are okay with eating potassium. Like I said, it's very heart healthy, good for our blood pressure. Okay, so I have that salad sort of mixed together. I am going to check on our berries over here. I'm trying to remember what I did with that spoon. Just use this one. So it's starting to bubble. This looks really good. So it's sort of getting like a soupy mixture, although the berries are still intact. I'll show you guys a close-up too of this. And I sprayed myself. That's okay. I told you I'm a messy cooker, but that's what makes it fun. Okay. And I should have pointed out too with the seeds, that's sort of, if you're cooking with kids, that's sort of a fun task for them to do, is sort of like separate the seeds from that sticky gooey stuff, the skin of the squash. So that's fun for kids to do. And you know, if you have picky eaters at home, cooking with your kids is a good way to get them to start trying different foods, because if they're involved in the cooking process, they're more likely to try the food. And the same goes for gardening or growing your own food. If kids are part of that process, they're going to be more likely to try those fruits and vegetables that they grow themselves, because they take pride in that. And all right, it's delicious. I'm going to add vinaigrette to our salad now. Make sure it's all mixed up there. This is a big salad, so I used all the vinaigrette, but if you make some up, you can always, like I said, use the extra for other salads. And so this recipe comes from the Iroquois people in the Great Lakes region of the U.S. That's kind of where I grew up, so it's what I'm familiar with. But if you guys have any ideas on squash or different salads that you'd like to share, please comment. You know, in the comment section, let me know. I'm definitely open to trying new things. Okay. So we got a nice crust on that salmon, which I kind of like. I like it having a nice crust. It makes it taste good and crunchy. I like the texture. So I have a little bit of our salad on there, and we're gonna just drizzle this berry sauce right on top of our salmon. Make sure you get some berries on there, those antioxidants, and berries are a pretty good source of fiber too, especially blackberries, because it's all that seediness. And so this is what our final dish looks like. We have, if we take a look, it's a very colorful plate, and that's what we want to look for what we would ideally want to eat is more colorful plates, right? Because that means we're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals and those antioxidants that are heart healthy. So we have our salad here, our Three Sisters salad with friends, with our vinaigrette, and then we have our salmon with the berry sauce on top. And so if we're thinking about like the My Plate or the different food groups, we're hitting a lot of them in this dish. We're getting our protein from the salmon, but also from the beans. Beans are a great plant-based protein source, and they also have calcium, which helps keep our bones strong. We have our vegetables, right? With the salad here, with the squash and avocado, all that. The jalapeno, you could add whatever you want to that. And then we have our fruit with the berry as well. And then a little bit of grains or carbohydrates with that rice we put in there, but also corn, like I said, is a whole grain. So we're hitting it all. We didn't get any dairy, but that's okay. Maybe later on today, have some dairy or even some dark leafy vegetables, which will have that calcium. That really is the reason we want to eat or drink dairy, is to get that calcium. So I hope you guys try this at home. I hope you like it. Please feel free to submit in the comments section any other recipes too that you would like to see cooked. I'm going to be trying to put some videos out at least once per week, cooking here in the Elmo kitchen. So until next time, thanks for tuning in.